prior prior to 2023, but it was very, very limited. So it only applied to those who had protective orders, and only about a very small percentage of people would actually get those protective orders because they could be found using that. They had to put their address on that. And it only masked voter registration address, and it was only a 2-year certification. So a very, very, very limited, small program. It was so small and underutilized that in the 10 years it was in effect, we only had 30 people through the entire decade that used the program. So it came to our attention that we could do more with this program. So we went to the legislature and asked them to pass a law to help us really bolster this program. So our new program that they passed in 2023, it now applies to all survivors of domestic violence, human trafficking, stalking, sexual assault, other crimes relate like that. It provides certification for out-of-state participants. It masks the address for all state and local agencies, and we act as a secretary. Our office acts as an agent of service and mail, so we actually forward mail to the participants. It now masks the address for all state and local public records. And we doubled the program, added a 4-year certification. We removed that requirement for that protective order. So you no longer need to get that protective order to be covered under this program. And we allowed for the use of application assistants. So this training is to kind of certify you as application assistants if you would like to be one, but also just kind of give you a little bit more information about what this program is and what the program does. And if you have any questions while I'm going through, you can interrupt me and I can answer them right away. You don't need to wait until the end. So a little bit about the program. It applies to survivors, right, themselves. So it could also, though, be children. So if they have a child, they can be under the program as well and have their address maxed. But it doesn't need to just be their children. It could be any incapacitated person who's under their guardianship. So that could be, say they're caring for an elderly parent. Maybe they're caring for, an indisposed brother or family member. They can also be covered under that. It also allows roommates to be covered under that. So if you live with your best friend and you have an abuser, you just got out of an abusive situation, and he knows that you live with this person, they can also be covered under that, because we know often the times that's how people are able to find, right, their victims. We also allow, which is kind of unique to our program, is that we do allow non-residents that are temporarily doing business here, or maybe they're just living here for a year or so because they're in college. We do allow them to be in our program. We also allow someone who is in a different state. So if somebody is enrolled in Indiana's address confidentiality program, and say they're coming to Kentucky, they can be enrolled in our program as well. As I said before, so the duration, it is 4 years, but we offer unlimited renewal. So as long as somebody feels that they need to be in this program, we allow them to be in the program. We don't rely on them. They don't need to, have a note on their phone. We will send out reminders. Hey, your renewal time's coming up. Would you like to renew? We do send out reminders. I do like to note that it does terminate if the address changes and we're not timely notified. That being said, we understand a lot of situations can be fluid. And so if the participant just lets us know, hey, I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit right now. Can you hold my mail, or can you send our mail to this place for right now? We are willing to work with them, because I understand that when you are trying to find a safe place, you may not be in the same address, right? You need to move around sometimes to be safe. And we get that. We just need to be apprised of the situation, since we are forwarding mail. If we start getting back a bunch of bounce back mail, we're going to have to see what's going on. Of course, yeah, you have to be enrolled in the program. So we are actually the only state that allows this reciprocity, that we allow participants from other states to be enrolled in our program if they're in our state. We're also the only state that gives protections to temporary residents. But if you have somebody, and say they're in, Indiana or Tennessee, and they're enrolled in their program, they do need to let us know when they enroll that they are a safe at home or address confidentiality participant in another state, because we do need to let that state know. Unfortunately, some states will cancel their enrollment if they move and enroll in our states. We have been working with other states. There's a national organization that we're a part of. And so we have been trying to work with other states to get that requirement away, because we think, it's kind of silly, but of course we can't control what other states do. So just a little bit more about, what's in the statute. So the bill, it was in 2023, it passed unanimously. That's not something nowadays that we see very often, unfortunately. And so this created that any government agency, state or local public records had to mask your records. And so there is an exemption, though, of course, that we had to put some in. And so if that agency has paper records that are more than 5 years old, they do not need to mask them. But any new record or any record that is online and newer than 5 years old, agencies have to change and give them their new address. Uh, so there is an exemption, right? If an agency has been notified in writing that that person is now, this is just more in the law. If that agency has been notified in writing that a person is now a safe at home participant, the agency shall not knowingly disclose the program participant. That includes their name, their home address, their work address, or their school address. So that means any public record, it even exempt from open records request. So there are some exemptions that we had to put into the law. So there are two types that we have. One is known but public, and one is, I'm sorry, known but not public, and one is known but public. So the known but not public, there's going to be things like your voter registration, your municipality, your utility, your school, because voter registration, we need to know where your precinct is. The utility, they need to know where they're billing that address to. A school needs to know if you live in that area, right? Or for busing, but they can't disclose that information to anybody if they ask. So your school knows your address, but if somebody called in and say, hey, does Joe go here? What's Joe's address? They cannot share that information with them. But then we do have the known and public. And so unfortunately, this is real estate records. This is something that all states have been trying to deal with and trying to get a way around to figure out how survivors can own homes. Unfortunately, that is just not something that we have been able to solve. And so if somebody does own property or owns a house, that information will be public and it won't be masked. A participant is able to provide written consent to disclose their information if they need to for a certain reason. And we'll go over that here in just a second. Before we do that, these are just another listing. You can find this on our website that has some of these agencies that have that exemption that say, hey, we need to know your address, but we're not going to share that. So again, school districts, so they know residency, also maybe need to have bus service, county clerks, so they can register the voter, also where you can register your car titles, the State Board of Elections for, that same reason, registering the voters, the DMV, the Transportation Cabinet, so they can issue your driver's license, and then, our office, so we are able to send and forward your mail to us. So, I should also note that any state or local public agency that employs a safe at home enrollee, they'll have that known but not public exemption. So if a participant needs to give their information, say a landlord needs to know that you got your utility turned on, right? Sometimes they require that when you move in. A participant is able to write them a written disclosure. And so it can be super simple. Like, here are a couple examples, over here. I'm currently enrolled as a student. I'm safe at home. I allow you to give that I go here. Or public utility, I establish my water service. I'm a safe at home participant. My landlord reserves the right to verify I have utilities turned on here. I authorize you to disclose this information for this purpose only. So, these very small purposes, you can say, hey, you can give out my address, but only for this reason. There was also another exemption that if a judge issues a court order to obtain that participant's address. Now, we have not had that situation happen just yet, but there could be a case where a judge says, hey, we need to give that address, and they do have the ability to do that. Okay, so any questions on the program? All right, so I'll go on kind of in the role of application assistance. So an application assistant, they meet with potential program participants and make program referrals. And so application assistants, they can determine whether an applicant is eligible and see, if they would maybe be a good fit. They can also help to fill out the application and submit it to us. We are a small and mighty staff. We don't have any full-time person on Safe at Home, so we unfortunately just don't have the capacity to meet with potential participants for enrollment. And so really we count on our application assistants to understand the program, advise, answer questions, and really kind of assist in that application project. So it's essentially, a conduit between our office and the survivors. However, you're not an agent of the applicant. And so we may ask you, follow-up questions, and you can ask us general questions, but if there's something very, very specific, the applicant will need to speak with us, contact us directly. But we find oftentimes easier for the participants or people who are deciding maybe if they want to enroll in this program to deal with somebody in the community that they know, that they trust, especially if you're in a situation where you just got out of it. This big government agency, we feel that it's oftentimes easier to have advocates in the field since they know them and know their situation a little bit better than we may be able to know them. So how do you help, right? If you think you see somebody and you come in contact with someone and say, hey, I think they may be a good candidate for this program. First, let them know the pros and the cons of it. So a pro is it's mail forwarding for first class mail. Their address will be masked with all government agencies, and it can be an effective tool in hiding from their abuser. However, it is not perfect. Right? It's only a small tool in the toolbox. This does not apply to private entities or businesses. It does not apply to the federal government, and it doesn't apply to real estate. So while it's great for the local and public records, it is not all records. That being said, we have entered into a partnership with this company. It's called Delete Me, and it's a service where they go online and they scrub information because unfortunately all of our information is sold, right? All the time. Anytime you sign up for a bank account or credit card, they sell our information. And so what Delete Me does is they go online and they scrub all of your information from the internet, and they contact these data brokers and ask them to remove your information. And so we have been able to offer that to our participants, which has been great. We've had it in effect for about 4 months, and we've seen so far 20,000 personal identifying information scrubbed from the internet. And so while we can't require private entities to not sell their address, we can't require them to, not give out their address. We are happy that we were able to work with Delete Me and get this available. So we can get, 20,000 pieces of information off the internet is great. Obviously, we still have a lot more to do, but we're pretty excited about that. So once you have some participant who you think, okay, this may be a good program for them, you can take them to our website, sos.ky.gov. And under forms is where you can find their form to apply. This is what that form looks like. It's a pretty simple form, right? You have your applicant information at the top, any dependents that they will need to. So this could be, it doesn't have to be their children. This could be, right, if they had, say, like an elderly parent, they can be on there. Then you also have a section for the name of the person that is feared. And then you have over here, you'll see a whole list of things that they'll need to attest to and swear to. The reason that they have to swear to this is because since we are doing away with that protective order, we do still need to certify that, yeah, you do have need for this program. So we do have to have the program, this notarized. And so a notary needs to say, yes, I swear to everything that I said up here. Again, we don't want that to be a barrier for people that they can't get it notarized. We don't want this to be a barrier. So we have e-notaries. Sorry, my throat's getting, I was yelling a little last night at a game. Okay, so they do need to be notarized, but we do have e-notaries in our office. And so you are able to call and say, hey, can you notarize this for me? And we can do that. Because again, we don't want that to be a barrier why somebody that needs a program can't be in it because they can't get to a notary. So we do offer e-notaries now. Unless you are from a different state. So if you are enrolled in Tennessee's or Indiana's program, Illinois' program, you don't need to get it notarized because they already attest, right? They already said that you needed to use this program and you had a use for this program. And so we're going to trust them. So you don't need to get re-notarized if you're coming in from a different state. So once the program is filled out, this is just kind of a closer look. They can send it to us, snail mail. Sure, you could fax to us, or you can just, they can send it in an email, kaacp@ky.gov. There is something I want to note about the name of the person feared, and that is if the person is a state or local government. So if the person's abuser works for the state or local government, we need to know that. And there's a box to check on there. And the reason we need to know that is so we can alert that agency that that person should not have any access to your files, especially if they work for, the transportation cabinet or one of these agencies that have that known but not public. We want to make sure that that person is not able to view this person's record and that is restricted. But we can't do that unless we know. So that's why we have this box here to check if you believe that person works for a local government agency or state government agency. Again, this is just a closer look at some of the things that they are swearing to about their need for the program. And then there is a spot for them to sign their name. And then also if you do help them fill it out, and then you can put your name there as the application assistant. And that can help us if maybe something wasn't filled out correctly, or we had, maybe a question. We may be able to call you and ask for some clarification. Again, generalization stuff. We can't get really into the nitty-gritty of things, but we can ask you if they're like, hey, this wasn't filled out, or hey, this notary did this, this wasn't notarized. Can you get it notarized for us? Because again, they're going to trust you more than they're going to trust us. And so it may be easier for you to deal with them than it would be for us. And so while you have your name on there, again, you are just an assistant. So you're not liable if they knowingly put, false statements, right? You're not going to be held liable for that. We just know that they do have a lot on their plate, and you might be the only person they trust. And so it's easier for you to assist them and clarify that information. And so again, you're not their agent. You can just relay information for them, but you can't make decisions on their behalf. But since you are completing this training, we know that you're knowledgeable and you're able to help survivors kind of work through this process. So once a program participant sends all their information in and they get accepted, this is what they'll get. They'll get an email from us that says, hey, congratulations. You've been accepted in the not congratulations. I'm sorry, that was a bad word. Like, hey, you've been accepted in the program. And then they will be asked to send in a picture. So we actually send them a picture, ID cards. And it will ask them to send us a picture so that we can print their card for them. They don't need to wait for this certificate. They don't need to wait for approval. They could send in that picture with their application. It actually would speed up the process if they did that, but it's not required to. We understand they may have just got a situation. They may not want to be in a picture at that moment. But once we get their picture, send it in. This is what their IDs look like. And so this is something that we want them to carry with them at all times. This can, when they send their ID, particularly if they get pulled over for like a speeding ticket, send their driver's license, but also have their safe at home card and be like, hey, just so you know, so maybe don't put my address on the speeding ticket, right? Because that then would be public record. So they will get a welcome packet once they get approved that will feature their ID, their new safe at home ID. And it's going to tell them a whole list of things that they should do. Including the contacting state and local agencies so they can start to mask their address. And again, always carry their safe at home authorization card with them. Their new address is going to be our address, 700 Capitol Avenue, Suite 152 in Frankfort. And we will begin to forward their mail as received, and then agencies should mask or substitute participants' addresses on all public records and not disclose to third parties. Participants are allowed to use their substituted address when creating or updating records with state or local government agencies. So some things that they should do: re-register to vote, obtain a new driver's license, enroll children in school, file for public assistance, anything where their address is on there. They should go and contact these agencies and say, hey, can you please change my address, or can you mask my address? We will not do that for them. It is on the participant to contact each of these agencies that they deal with, some that may already have their address or any new agency that they are dealing with. Unfortunately, some government agencies, they may not be familiar with this program. And so if an enrollee, while they are going to these different agencies and saying, hey, here is my safe at home card, please, I'm a participant, can you please mask my address? An agency may be like, I don't know what that is, that's not true. Like, we're not going to adhere to that. We tell them to contact us, right? Contact our office, or have us, or you guys contact us and say, hey, this agency has given us some trouble. So we will know to contact them. Some of these agencies, they may request an exemption. They may say, hey, well, we need your address and this is why. And some agencies may already have an exemption. Again, federal, anything dealing with the federal government, that's not going to apply. So far, we have not granted any further exemptions. We've had some agencies that have contacted us and saying, hey, we may need this, but we haven't received any formal request from them. And so right now, the ones that have granted the exemptions are on our website, but that may change in the future. If agencies do request and we do grant an exemption, we will notify everybody who's in the program, as well as application assistants that we have on file. There's a number on the back of the card that they can contact us if they have some issues, if an agency is giving them some trouble. So, while private companies are not required to participate in the program, some do voluntarily. And so one of those is US Bank. They actually reached out to us when we were going through the process and just got the law passed, and said, hey, we voluntarily will participate in this program. So anybody that is in Safe at Home, if they bank with us, if they let us know, we will not sell their data. We won't sell their information. They do, though, need to let the bank know. Simply changing their address to 700 Capitol Avenue on their bank account will not alert US Bank. They need to actually contact US Bank and say, hey, I am now a Safe at Home enrollee. Can you please not sell my data? So that's so far the only company that has reached out to us, but I do like to let people know about that, because I think that's great that they voluntarily have a program in place. Some typical agencies that they're going to deal with. One, of course, is the Transportation Cabinet, right? The DMV. So when they deal with the DMV, they'll present their Safe at Home card as normal. But due to computer limitations at the Transportation Cabinet, they can choose one of two options. One is to have their Safe at Home address printed on their license, but receive their DMV mail, which is limited to their home. Or they can have their physical address printed on their license, but receive their DMV mail at their Safe at Home address, our address. I always suggest, but again, it is up to the participant what they want to do. I would suggest putting, your Safe at Home address on your driver's license, because if you're, say you're at Kroger buying, a bottle of wine, and what if he sees your address and it happens to be your abuser's friend? But again, it is completely up to the participant how they would like their address listed on their new driver's license. Whatever option they choose, the Transportation Cabinet will not share their address with third parties or in open records requests. The one exemption is that it would be made available to police in the case of emergency or necessary police activity. Schools. That's going to be another thing where you will have to go re-register and show them your card. And so each school district and school is probably going to have their own policy with how they will handle a Safe at Home participant, but all public schools are subject to the law. We have, as I said before, we have granted a limited exemption to school districts for determining residency and establishing bus service. So when they go to re-register their children at school, they should present their Safe at Home card at registration. It is important to note that this does not count for public or for private schools. This is only public schools. But it may not hurt to ask. If their child is enrolled at a private school, they could ask the school if they can treat them. If you can say, I'm in this program, can you please not give out my information? Can you please not share it? They, though, don't have to. They are not required to, how a public school is required to. Some additional considerations. Here are some responsibilities of the participant. One, it is on them to notify any agencies that they have a relationship with that they are now a Safe at Home participant. Again, we will not be doing that for them. We don't have a full-time staff, that really just has the bandwidth to be able to do that. It is on them to renew their enrollment every 4 years. We will let them know once that time comes. And then alert us if there is a cause for enrollment changes, if their name changes. We need to know that so we can update our system. And then also, as it says here at the top, to notify us of an address change within 14 days. Again, and I know I'm sure the population that you deal with, right, is probably going to be a little bit transient. And so we're not so like, okay, right, 14 days, we need to know it. We just need to know that if a participant is in maybe in a fluid living situation, to let us know that so we know what to do with their mail, that we can update their mail situation or maybe hold their mail for a little bit while they're trying to find a more permanent place to live. So it says, on here, failure to do that will result in cancellation. We understand that that is maybe not be realistic, right, for everybody. So as long as we are aware of the situation, we're able to kind of maybe not be so strict on that 14 days. All right, so of course, things may come up. When something comes up, when in doubt, contact our office and we will do our best to help alleviate the problem. There are only 4 people in our office that are allowed to handle safe at home records. So if you are calling, if the participant is calling, say, hey, we need to speak to an authorized safe at home administrator. I am one of them. And then there's only a couple of my other colleagues that are able to handle these files. If an agency refuses to comply with Safe at Home, we need to be alerted. We need to contact the agency and make sure that they will comply. There's just, some agencies that just don't know about the program and we don't, haven't thought to contact. And so these situations will likely come up. And sometimes it's easier, right, to communicate government agency to government agency than to have a participant or you as an application assistant be like, no, I promise this is real. To have us as a government agency be like, no, you need to comply with this. This is the statute. This is, the law that you do need to comply. But again, they may say, well, no, this is why we need their address, and we may grant them that exemption. Again, we have not had that happen to this case. I mean, we are less than 2 years in the new program, but I'm sure that it will happen as we get more people enrolled and, they come into contact with more agencies. If we do grant that exemption, though, they may need to provide that address, but they need to work with us to ensure that they are not disclosing that information publicly or sharing it in an open records request. Unfortunately, no, there are limitations. While we are happy and we are proud that we were able to expand the program, it's not a perfect program, unfortunately. There are limitations. Errors can occur, and you may run into people who are resistant to the program. But again, if we are aware of the problem, we can work as quickly as we can to address and rectify the situation. We are working to get in front of courts and different judges, circuit courts, to kind of alert them a little bit more about the program, because we have seen some issues where courts and judges weren't so familiar and didn't quite know how to handle, certain when they did come in contact with a safe at home participant. So we are working to get our outreach out there and our engagement to let more people within the government know about the program. But there may still be some issues that people run into. So I know that was real quick, and a lot of information. So do you guys have any questions for me?
I have a quick question. Not sure, but do you have any data? Like, I know you mentioned with like the previous program, there being very little, you know, people that utilize the program. Do you guys kind of have some data so far? I know, like you said, it's pretty new, but just wondering.
Yes, I do. How do I stop sharing my screen? Oh, here we go. Yes, sorry. Okay, so yes, so we right now we have about 145 participants. So it's still very small. Because considering we know that there are probably thousands of people that can help with the program. So while it's a 500% increase, we know that there was a lot more that can be done. And it's kind of one of those double-edged swords, because you don't want to say like, yes, I want more people to be in the program because that means more people are being abused. But we know that there are way more than 145 people in Kentucky that could use this program. And so that's why we really try to do these trainings in any organization that reaches out to us so we can help get the word out, because I think there's still just not a lot of knowledge about the program.
So I guess I'm wondering now, and I'm sorry if we were already going to touch on this, but what would it look like for any Home Strong AmeriCorps members that might be interested in becoming a certified assistant? I actually know one of our members. I think she's here, Sonia. She might not be able to talk, but Sonia is a certified assistant to do this at Safe Harbor over in Ashland. Um, so yeah, how would any members go about that? What does that look like?
Oh yeah, I can't believe I forgot to put it in there. Yes. So you guys have all done the training, right? So anybody that is on this call now has completed the training. So you're all eligible to become application assistants. So on our website, sos.ky.gov, under Safe at Home, if you go to forms, there is a form for application assistance. So you just need to fill that out and then send it on in. So you could just, take it, like scan it in, take a picture, and then email it to us, and then we'll send out a certificate. You don't need to wait to get our certificate to become, start helping people and becoming an application assistant. You could get off the call right now and then apply, and then you're certified.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Any
Yes,
further
I'm sorry. I usually, it's been a little bit, it's been a couple months, I think, before since I've done a training. So I'm a little rusty, I think, because I typically mention that.
Yeah, I just know, I mean, we probably have a handful of members that work directly with survivors. But yeah, like you said, it's just something that the word needs to get out that it exists. Um, I was curious though, the one question um, about uh, like if like restricting access if the perpetrator is a like state employee or might have access to those records. How does that work? Restricting access to that.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna, depend like agency by agency. And so I don't know how each agency will, put a flag on it, but I think, through IT, since everything is online now, right? I think you're just probably able to put a block for that person's address. And so I don't know that we have had actually that even come up yet. But we just know that we want to make sure that if it did, that we had something in place, particularly for these agents for like schools or, transportation cabinet if they work there. And so I think it would be something that they would be able to do like through IT by blocking, a person's credentials. But I think it just would probably depend based on agency by agency.
Okay, one last thing. I promise. Now, this has been really informative, and I just want to say thank you. Um, I did share your information with another AmeriCorps program. They're through the Kentucky Department or Kentucky Health Department Association, their public health corps. So their members are actually within serving within health departments across the state. So you may have another AmeriCorps program staff reach out to you to present on the program because within health departments, you never know, what type of situation is going to come up. And so I thought that it would be really a good training for their members as well.
That's awesome. Yes, please share anybody you come in contact with that you think needs a training. We are I'm more than willing to do it and happy to do it. Unfortunately there was a domestic violence shelter in a part of the state that like had no idea we existed, and we had a participant trying to deal with them. They're like, we don't know what that is, and I was like, well, that's bad on me. Like, I need to reach out to this department. So yes, that's great. I will look out for their email.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Great. Any other questions before I head out?
I'm definitely going to look more into the Delete Me, the national like data confidentiality tool as well. Um, yeah, that sounded like another really great tool, like in conjunction.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was very informative and very helpful, especially getting into like what the actual law is. Um, Very helpful. Thank you so much.
So, well, thank you guys so much and have a great day and happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Yeah, happy Valentine's. On that note, I sent out little Valentine's Day cards to all of you. So if you didn't receive it, let me know because that probably means I have the wrong address. I'm going to share my screen. I only have maybe a little more than a dozen slides to discuss. Where is she? But first, let's check out these accomplishments. And if you all have any questions, I'm happy to forward them to LaShawn. And yeah, the team should be happy to answer and point you all in the right direction. And I'll, after this, in the recap email, compile all those resources and stuff that we talked about, as well as the link to, yeah, apply to get the assistant certification. That's really awesome. Michael Castle at HDA talked about, yeah, they had a client that was ready to give up on finding housing. They were diligent in, yeah, encouraging them. Now they're going to have a home built. Wow. All you. Claps for Michael. Incredible. That's awesome. And then Whitney Bowling, also at HCA. Hi, Whitney. She sent pictures. They'll be in next month's newsletter. She says look, she got a little selfie with Andy. They organized a really awesome press conference with the governor to talk about the Housing Can't Wait website, which I'll probably share that in the recap email too, just because that's like a new thing. But if you all have any other resources you want to share related to that, I'm happy to. Yeah, that's a really cool like coalition to help Eastern Kentucky flood survivors, other disaster survivors. So yeah, very cool. Any other? Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Okay, let's get started. Thank you all for sharing those accomplishments. Always happy to see those.
Hey,
And I
wait,
feel it's,
before you start,
uh-huh,
hold on, Val. Sorry.
go ahead.
Michael, Whitney, will you tell Derek we said happy early birthday? Okay. Pass that
Yeah, sorry, I'm on mute. Definitely. Derek became a Kentucky Colonel today, and he's on cloud nine. Everyone became a Kentucky Colonel at HDA. So,
Yeah.
Organized this event. I will talk about it in next month's paperwork. But everyone booed Derek. It was great.
Oh, great. Well, yeah, pass that along. We said happy birthday.
we will. All right. Thanks.
For those unaware, Derek was a member last year, a construction member that got hired at HDA. A fine young gentleman. So we're all very happy for him. Let's see. Get rid of my face. Sorry. Okay, so this is our agenda. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat. I can see them. First, we're going to talk about performance measure updates. I've crunched the numbers on what I've received so far, so we're going to talk about that. But I know there's a lot more out there. So we'll talk about PMs. Want to do some service highlights because we've been doing some really strong service the past few months, even though I know, yeah, January and February feels like eternity. But we've been working it, so I'm really proud of you all. Going to give more information about taxes. Those were released. Going to talk about some upcoming development opportunities or things you can do on your own time and some upcoming reminders. Okay, so our current totals for performance measures, we have served 416 households. That is 531 adults and 309 children. I added these up a few days ago, so if you recently sent some, it might not be totally up to date. And like I said, I know lots of members have some coming on the way. But our goals for the program year is we wanted to, by the end of the year, by July 31st, 2025, have 2,000 individuals served. And we count that data with the step 1 form, the first step service form. And the outcome is the wrap-up form, the step 2 form, and that is when individuals are permanently housed. Not all of you, um, if you're doing outreach or things like that, like street outreach, you may not be completing too many step 2s, or if you're in a shelter and, there's only a few clients that might stay for a while. But just make sure to count that data. Don't underreport. Again, this isn't a measure of your performance as a service member, but this data is really important to us in our program. And it is also helpful at the end of the year for you to see the real information, because I do separate it and I'll let you know how many people you served and what that data looks like. Oh, you're good, Whitney or Michael. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, we're going to talk about the mid-year evaluation later, but it's due at the end of this month. You're good, Emily. I know you've got a lot. Don't take your time. Yes. Yeah, time spent completing performance measures, log that as AmeriCorps training, and you can do it whenever you want, and you can send them to me however you want. Let's see. So either do it the 15th of the month, you can scan and email them to me, you can take pictures and text me, or you can mail physical copies, and depending how you prefer to fill them out, you can print out a bunch of blank forms and, just write it in, or I have members that do PDFs. One thing I want to say about service forms, something I've noticed, is you cannot complete step 2 without step 1, and the code names, it needs to be confidential, meaning that somebody looking at that could not identify who that is about. There's just a few that I've seen with like their last name or things like that, or their initials is okay. But yeah, make sure it is confidential and somebody looking at that wouldn't be able to tell who that's for. Oh, and the volunteer form. I have not I have the volunteer forms, but I didn't include that data. I haven't gone through it yet. But we do have a few members that have been submitting those, so thank you. But if you have any questions, if you are working with volunteers, or maybe you haven't filled out a volunteer form yet, feel free to reach out and we can talk about it. Service highlights. Yeah, thank you all. Like I said, we've been busy. All of the MLK Junior Day events, I know that a lot were canceled because of the weather. But yeah, we still had some really awesome service projects. I was really proud and excited to see those. And also a lot of K-Count events, people that participated in that. It's very helpful for funding of shelters and street outreach and things like that. And that is just very valuable data to know how many people are dealing with homelessness. Shout out to Safe Harbor, Fresh Start Frankfurt, and Hope's Wings, who all had successful shop and share events. They are DV shelters, so people got to go to Kroger. I think, once again, the governor was at the Kroger in Richmond, maybe with Hope's Wings. I saw him in like a little Kroger uniform. But people, when they went to go and shop and get their groceries, could also donate right then and there at Kroger Food to the DV shelters. So that's really exciting. And there were news articles written about a lot of those. Feel free to share those with me. I love highlighting those in the monthly emails and at our meetings. And to the right here, you'll see, I think this is Whitney's second publication. The other one I shared about their, what's it called, the Hope and Recovery Program, where they have people in recovery serving on their construction teams. And then this one is about a Housing Development Alliance client who is going to be housed. So I'll send that full article so y'all can check it out. But yeah, it's really awesome. Thank you, Whitney. Yeah, you should be proud of this. Taxes. Wait, let me look at the chat real quick.
I think you're good.
Okay,
I think I got everything answered.
thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you served in previous program years, I forwarded an email Wednesday afternoon that has some answers to frequently asked questions about using the Education Award, because once you use the Education Award, it does count as taxable income. I think you receive a 1099 after using it. So that just has some tips. That is very helpful. Speaking from personal experience, I broke mine up into 2 years so that even though it was the same school year, it was on 2 different tax years. But yeah, always happy to answer any questions you have about the Education Award or point you in the right direction, or any implications for your taxes. And secondly, I shared this, I believe, on the February monthly email, but VITA, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, they offer free tax assistance. I'm pretty sure if you make below $64,000. So almost all AmeriCorps members and alumni fit their eligibility criteria. That's how I got my taxes done. It was very easy. There are a lot of locations everywhere. I got mine done by some accounting students at my alma mater, Transy. They were great. It was very simple, very fast. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. Yeah. Development opportunities. We have just a few more. I shared this one in the February monthly email, but I'll share it again. This is from the, not Serve Kentucky. What's that? Some state program. It's called Radical Inclusion, meeting people where they are. Discussing harm reduction. So I thought that would be an interesting lens. Oh, the Team Kentucky. That's what it's from. Team Kentucky program. They're the ones that are promoting this or sponsoring this. And then I also shared in the February monthly email, but I'll share it again. It is a harm reduction in rural areas workbook for homeless response system staff. It might even be helpful if you're in Lexington or Louisville, just to see and contrast. But yeah, that is a very helpful resource. And then lastly, it's called Cafe TA Center. They have a lot of helpful resources. This one is mindfulness practices in the workplace. I feel like this is a time where we can kind of go into autopilot mode. It can be a bit harder to slow down and be mindful. But it's just a service year. It's fleeting, so make sure to soak in those accomplishments and everything. And then lastly, navigating the workplace. This is a 4-part case scenario series, and the description stated that this is for people in the workplace, specifically dealing with mental illness and how to navigate that, talking about accommodations, boundaries. So that seems like a very helpful resource. And I'll be sure to share that. Yes. Log. If you're completing performance measures at home or outside of the office, still log that time. That is service time, and you can log it under AmeriCorps training.
I also just wanted to say these development opportunities, these are all optional.
Correct.
So just letting you know, this is not a requirement of our program. These are just some professional development opportunities. They are optional for you to choose to participate in. Let us know if you do a training, so we just kind of have an idea. But again, it's completely optional. We are not requiring you to do these things. Okay.
Yeah, and the first one, that's the only one that is upcoming. The other 3, they're recording, so you can watch them whenever you please. Yeah. This is another development opportunity, but if you receive an email from me stating that there is a Serve Kentucky member roundtable coming up near you, if it's within like a 45-minute drive, you'll be sent the invite. And these roundtables they last about an hour to an hour and a half. You can count it under AmeriCorps training. It counts as service time. And at these roundtables, you talk with other AmeriCorps members and the Serve Kentucky staff who are our program officers just about your experience so far as an AmeriCorps member. It's a safe and judge-free environment. So it can be good to network, get to know how other AmeriCorps, yes. We will also, like if you go to one of these in-person dates, we will comp your mileage. So please let me know if you're unable to attend an in-person invite that you are sent, or if you want to attend this virtual date. It's February 21st, next week at 4 p.m. Virtual and optional, but again, you can kind of as service hours, and yeah, just chat a bit with other AmeriCorps members in the state. So if you have any questions about this, please let me know. And yeah, if you plan to attend, let me know.
I'm gonna chime in too.
Go ahead.
I have communicated this with your supervisors as well. There is an expectation that if a program has members serving in the area that Serve Kentucky is hosting the in-person tables. Do you hear me? You are required to go. We also let your supervisors know if for some reason you cannot attend, we will need an excuse as to why, and we will have to provide that to Serve Kentucky. These kind of used to be something that Serve Kentucky was like, yeah, send 1 or 2 members. Now we are being told we have to have an X amount of members based on our program size. So that's why it's really important that we are communicating with you and you are communicating back to us, so we have an idea on how many people are going, because we want to make sure that we are staying in compliance with Serve Kentucky, since they do monitor our programs, and we just want to stay, in good standings with them.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, and to add to that, like no pressure, but we are like one of the best programs in the state. And so there's kind of a, I don't want to say a high bar, again, no pressure. But I know that the Serve Kentucky staff looks forward to meeting and talking to you all about your experiences. So yeah, hashtag represent. What else? These are some resources I'm going to share that I've seen recently. If you come across resources that you think would be helpful to other service members in the state, feel free to share them with me. So I think most importantly, KHC is doing their eviction diversion program. If any of you have any experience with this, please let me know. We have some people at HHCK applying for this program, and we're just curious about the turnaround time, what it's looking like. But yeah, that is available until April 1st of this year. KentuckyLoop.org. That is just like the resource compilation. Priscilla Easterling, who was a connector, talked to us about this, and it's all across the state. And you can look up resources for healthcare, legal help, housing, a ton of stuff, food. So check that out, see what's near you, see if there are any resources that you didn't know were there. Or if there are some really good ones that you know about that aren't on there. I'm pretty sure at the bottom of the page, you can submit like requests to have a resource added. And then to the right here, this is for Medicaid participants. They qualify for non-emergency medical transportation. So to doctor's appointments, to the pharmacy, each area. And again, I'll send this so you can zoom in. I know this is small. But yeah, each area, check out your county, see who provides these services for you. Yes, thank you, Holly, for clarifying that. Yeah, the eviction diversion program, you have to have an eviction notice when you call. Any questions? Okay, upcoming next month, AmeriCorps Week, March 9th through 15th. Oh, Riley, dang, I didn't even notice that. So it's every county but Fayette and Jefferson. Maybe I hope it's because those counties have their own little programs. If I can figure that out, I'll forward it. Sorry. AmeriCorps Week, March 9th through 15th. So I'm going to be sending out a survey just to tell a little bit about yourself. Hopefully next week. That'll be in your email, or I might attach it with like the recap email. So yeah, please complete this so we can highlight you and your service. Noella, are you referring to the medical rides for that? Oh, okay, I gotcha. Noelle was saying if you have any clients that are facing eviction, you can refer them to Team Kentucky. Gotcha. Yeah, okay. Yeah, mid-year evals were sent out at the beginning of this month, so they're due at the end of the month. If you want to talk about your evaluation, feel free to schedule a meeting with me. I'm happy to talk about it, your future goals in the program, what you want to work on. Timesheets for last week, weeks prior, were due on Monday. And then lastly, we have a few Vistas on this call. Yeah, welcome back, Karen. Sorry, Jennifer, did you have a question?
No,
Okay.
it kicked me offline. Sorry.
No, no worries. So this is for Vistas only. If you're a direct service member, if you've never been referred to as a Vista, just like ignore this. But for Vistas, our capacity building members, we will be having our virtual orientation from 12:30 to 4 Eastern next Friday. Okay. Austin asked if anybody will be in Covington for the Kentucky Affordable Housing Conference. We're not going. That's all I've got. So yeah, wrapping things up, tax forms are delivered digitally at the end of January. Don't pay for your tax prep, get free help with VITA. All the development opportunities, resources shared. I'll share them in an email after this call. Please let me know if you plan to participate in the virtual member roundtable. I've got one member so far. But again, this is a good opportunity to get an extra hour and a half or so of service hours in a judgment-free, laid-back space, just chatting with other AmeriCorps members. And then our next monthly member meeting is going to be on March 14th at 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll have speakers from Public Health Corps. They work with health departments, as Holly mentioned earlier. So they're going to tell us about their programs, resources available, how you can take full advantage of the health department near you. And lastly, submit service forms and timesheets. If you have any questions about these, don't hesitate to reach out. That's all I got. Feel free to drop questions in the chat. Yeah, Karen, I'll give you a call sometime soon too. But yeah, that's all I've
Okay, I
got.
have one more thing
Go
for
ahead.
the couple of Vista members that are on the call. We'll send out new paperwork like we always do, with, you know, your emergency contact forms and things like that. So, yeah, just be on the lookout for that. That'll come from Signwell. And yeah, it's good to know, because we'll be going through our member gear, because we would like to get that sent out to you. And also for new Vista members, you probably got an email, or will hopefully be getting an email soon directly from Vista, giving you kind of like an allowance on ordering some gear from the National Service Gear website. So sorry, AmeriCorps State members, that is something that Vista does. So yeah.
Let's see. All right, cool. Thank you all so much for joining.
log an
Yes.
hour under training on your timesheet for joining us. Have a great Valentine's Day.